So I stumbled across this tweet that I seen and it got some wheels turning, and I wanted to run this by you all just to get you all's thoughts. I have some thoughts of my own, and I can't remember if I've ever expressed them or not, but either way, this will give me an opportunity to reiterate if I have. So this is a tweet from IA Gators. I think that's how you say it, or A Gators. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or wrong. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I apologize, homie. But Gator said, here's the facts. If Bungie properly balanced the marathon sandbox, which they are fully capable of doing, instead of leaving it to whatever players complain about each week, the community would not constantly fight each other. We are literally set against each other because they keep letting broken metas thrive. You shouldn't be able to have 500 frag nades that literally one-shot blue shields and lose everything to a nade. That's worse than the goo gun, which is an in-game weapon, and most prestige weapons. It is genuinely good for the overall health of the game for them to keep listening to community feedback and nerf things. However, the nerfs they are doing are too much. For example, the waster, the knife, etc. It is almost as if they want us to argue to make more traction, like they did in Destiny 2, ... So this is a jam-packed tweet here, and I want to have a dialogue about what was said here. First and foremost, am I in agreement? I would say yes and no, right? Them purposely doing this for us to argue, for there to be hit tweets and for the arguments to gain traction and whatnot, I don't think that's the case. I think that's foolish in some capacity. I'm not saying Gators is foolish for this. No, not at all. I'm saying it would be foolish if Bungie was to lean on that in any capacity, because not all publicity is good publicity, and Bungie should be one of the studios to know from the entire art scandal and where Marathon was back during the open alpha and all that. Like, again, good or not good, but all publicity is not good publicity, right? So I don't think that's necessarily the case. But where I agree with Gator is I agree that Bungie, in this instance, can certainly take matters more into their own hands. And I don't think they've done that a great deal. Now, they've done a great job of listening to the community, right? They've done a great job of hearing people out, right? People were complaining about the knives. They've been complaining about the waster. Like whenever people talk about stuff, Bungie does something to iterate upon it, right? And I think that's dope, and that should continue, right? I think where Bungie goes wrong is when they adjust things solely based off of the complaints. And look, maybe Bungie is compiling as much data as possible and they just haven't made any moves off of it. But right now, it just looks like they just address the loudest people on the internet, in all honesty, right? Because people complained about the UI and the icons, right? They changed those, and now you see people saying, oh man, the old icons look better. So it's like, dang, bro, you can't win for nothing, right? But in that instance, if Bungie would have just taken matters into their own hands and said, man, do we like what's going on here? If we do, we're going to double down, and if we don't like it, we'll adjust. It just felt like they bent the knee there, and now this iteration seems to not be as well received as the prior one. You know what I'm saying? The knife nerf, right? When they nerfed the knives, now, did they need to be adjusted? I would say so, right? There are some people that believe that it was a good trade-off. Like, if you let somebody get that close to you with the knife and you're rocking purple shields and you get two-tapped by the knife, hey, that's on you. And I would rebuttal that slightly and say not necessarily. If you're navigating, fighting an assassin, and the assassin was invis and like there's gunfire going on, it could mask his footsteps, and you know, you get knifed by a team of assassins like that, that could be annoying. So having some adjustments there, I think, were ideal. I think initially the waster nerf was way too much, and then as of the most recent patch today, at the time of recording, Bungie has brought the waster back more in alignment, which is something I expected them to do, right? I expected them to kind of course correct, because one thing Bungie always does is Bungie will make an adjustment. If something is on all the way on the left side, they'll make an adjustment and move it all the way to the right side, and then in a later patch, bring it somewhere in the middle, right? They did that with the gunfire sound, right? Remember when we weren't hearing any gunfire from POI to POI, they overtuned it. Then it was third-party central, and then they brought it back into a good space. That's just kind of their history, and that's how they do, right? So again, like, listening to the community sentiment and the community feedback is good, but something I would love to see and I would love to like hear is, I would love for Bungie to do a blog post, right? and come out and just say what data they've been compiling, right? I would love for them to come out and say, hey, look, here is the list of things we are looking at currently that we are going to be making adjustments to coming up in season 2 or whatever, right? Or we're going to take a stab at it sometime next week, whatever. And they say the list of things just to let people know, right? Hey, look, we see that this category of weapon is underperforming, and I'll make up some. We see that the CE tactical sidearm is underperforming. The Magnum sidearm is underperforming. We're going to take a stab at that. We see that the grenades are egregious. We're going to take a stab at that. We're going to drop something into the experimental queue next week, and we're going to continue to adjust accordingly before iterating it into the main game. We're considering making SMG stronger in CQC, but having greater range fall off, etc. Right? Just putting it out there, letting people know what they're going to do or what they're going to attempt to do. And then they can draw community sentiment from that, right? The community may say, all right, cool, right? Or, there are always going to be people that are going to complain no matter what. That's just the reality of it. But if community sentiment is in line with what the data says, I would say that's a surefire thing, right? So again, for example, if they're noticing, and I'm making up numbers here, if they're noticing 35% of deaths on Cryo Archive come from some type of grenade, whether if it's a frag, a flechette, a chem, whatever, then they can make a post and say, we're considering taking a look at grenades because we feel them to be really oppressive in the game. People can comment on Reddit, on Twitter. They can send a what's it called? A questionnaire via email or in game, and people can respond. People can say, oh, thank goodness that they're going to address it because nades are oppressive. Some people may say, no, they're only oppressive in Cryo Archive, but they're fine on Outpost or Dire Marsh, right? Then that way they can really filter through the BS and they can really settle upon what it is they want to do. Because what if they have 3 different fixes for a grenade? They have a cooldown fix, so you can only throw a grenade every 20 seconds. They have a limit fix, which means you can only bring in 2 nades. Like, what if they have several fixes that they're considering exploring? They'll be able to kind of figure out what is going to be the best avenue for them to move forward with when it comes to grenades if they get community feedback based off of letting us know. But it feels like right now Bungie is just being reactive and not necessarily proactive. And I think that's the best way to kind of encapsulate everything. You know what I'm saying? So again, I would like for Bungie to just kind of turn some dials on their own, see what the community thinks about it, or like consider turning some dials, see what the community thinks about it, and then further adjust from there. I think that would be cool. And that would be a great way just to have dialogue with the community to, again, see what community sentiment is, because being reactive and being responsive all the time just doesn't quite look good. Sometimes it feels like Bungie responds to the wrong people. It feels like they respond to the loud minority, and then the majority have to suffer as a byproduct of that. But with that all being said, though, I'm very curious to know what you all think about this. So let me know in the comments below. Do you agree with your boy Cray? Do you disagree? Do you somewhat agree? What would you do in this instance, and what would you propose in this instance? I will be very curious to hear what you all have to say in the comments. And until next time, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna hand the mic over to you, and I'm going to sign out. I love you all. Thank you all so much for coming and watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.